Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome to our webinar on our 2023 Release 2. We'll just wait a few seconds to see how many people we get in. Okay, we've got a couple more people popping in, so we're just going to wait and see how many we get before we start. Thank you for being patient. Just a couple more people just joining, so we're just waiting for them to all get in. And I think, Eshel, should we start?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you mind sharing?
I'm going to share presentation we have for today.
So, hello everybody, and welcome to our 2024.2 release webinar. Eshel Feller and I from the product team are going to talk through a bunch of interesting things. So we've got some people that know the product very well and probably a few people that don't know it too well. So we're going to go a little bit high level and then we're going to go super deep. First of all, just want to quickly remind everybody what's in the product. So we're an integrity, reliability, and functional safety software company. And these are the modules that we have in the system. In orange, you'll see the ones that we've highlighted today. So sure, we built hundreds of features over the last release across all of these topics, but the ones that we're going to concentrate on are our integrity system, RCM, or reliability, your new forms there. We've got quite a bit that Eshel wants to talk about for safety instrumented systems, and I will try and explain to the best of my ability our mobility offering. So just to remind you what we do, asset risk management platform by integrity, reliability, and functional safety. The first topic is about user location limit. That's one for Eshel. So that's really quite a powerful feature. Previously in IMS, the philosophy was keeping everything open to everybody. That makes it a little bit difficult to manage. Contractor roles is a little bit associated with that, and I'll let him talk about that. Two new checklists. It says root cause analysis, but it's actually causal analysis, and that's something I will describe. We're going to talk about a new feature in dynamic forms. So dynamic forms is something everybody knows quite well, but we've added a feature we've asked for called tables. Then onto mobility, and then the sys improvements. So Eshel, I give the floor to you.
Thank you, Justin. Okay, so let's talk about the first feature that we are going to discuss today. This is the limit location that we introduced in the last release, and it's really related to the next one, that is sys contractor roles. But talking about limit location, which is the aim for this new feature? This new feature helps our user to focus their job and to be more efficient. The idea behind this new feature is that an admin, when creating or editing a new user, is able to assign this user a particular location, a site, a plant, or a unit. And those locations can be combined. It can be more than one site, plant, or unit for the same user. So the idea behind this is that, for example, a contractor, which is the most common case that we have for this kind of workflows or for this kind of request, is able to see, to access, and to interact only with the elements that are within his or her domain. It not only applies to the main features such as main grids, but also this limitation in location will apply to dashboards and to custom queries. The second feature that we are going to talk about is related to the previous one, as we said before. It's the sys contractor roles. The idea behind this is also we are limiting some users when creating those specific profiles, not only in location now, but we can also limit them in what they access and edit or view in terms of element. It can be in the case of IMS. We can have HACCP, LOPA, and CIF analysis. So we give the admins the ability to assign a user a particular limitation considering those three elements. As we can see in the image in the right, these contractor roles can be combined with the limit location. So the idea is to give our customers the flexibility to have a safe process in place, and also to ensure that the contractor or the user that we are creating is focusing the energy, the job, all the tasks that this user has in a proper way and make it more efficient. The same as we said before, these roles are setting from an admin. They can be added. So for example, if we need someone to have access to LOPA and HACCPs, we can add two different roles to the same users. And those limitations also apply not only to main grid, but also to custom queries and dashboards. So in order to explain a bit more about these two features, how those can be combined, I'm gonna do a quick demo in our IMS SIS that we have here. Right now, I'm logged in as a particular user that has access to all the menus and all the information that we have in our platform. So for example, you can see that I can have access to all the sites that we have available, to all the units, all the plants, and also I have access to the CIFS analysis, the HACCPs, and the LOPAs. At the same time, when I go, for example, to dashboards, I can see information from all my different sites, from all my different elements. So I can see information about HACCPs. I can see here information about LOPAs, how many LOPAs are out of sync. And the idea behind having this feature in place is that we can focus the user's visibility in the place or the segment we want this user to work in. So right now I'm gonna log off and I'm gonna log in as a contractor role that I prepared for the purpose of this demo. Let me just type it here. And the first thing we are gonna see when we log in as this contractor role that has access to only one particular site is that the scoping bar will only have this particular plant considering in it. At the same time, the dashboards are not showing all the information that we have in the database. The contractor in this case will have access only to the information related to the location and to the elements that this contractor is working in. So for example, if we see the LOPA information, the contractor cannot see this in the dashboards. As I mentioned before, this is a HACCP contractor, so our idea for this user is to have him or her working particularly in HACCP. However, if this user try to access other menus in the software will not allow that. If, for example, the user also wants to access this LOPA from a particular HACCP using a hyperlink that we have in place to make easier the navigation through different elements, we will see exactly the same scenario. The HACCP contractor ideally would be working only in HACCP, so when he or she tries to access a different element, the software will block this view and won't allow the user to continue working in other elements. So now I'm going to go back to the presentation. Hope that demo was clear, but of course, if there's any doubt, then you can reach out to us. And I leave to Justin to the next topic.
Thank you, Asher. So just so I understand it, the if a company has multiple contractors working on a particular site and you only want them to work on a part of the plant or a part of the site, you can really limit them down.
Exactly. And it's not only working for contractors,
Right.
Even for users, you can scope their work in a particular site or unit.
So that makes sense to me, right? So now I've got, so for senior and junior people on the site, and I don't want junior people to go and really work in dashboards. I want them to focus on the job in hand. So then they'll only get the jobs as they go in. So it really scopes the way they're thinking.
Exactly.
Got it. I finally understand the feature. Thank you, Rachel. Okay, so I quickly wanted to talk about two topics that are just coming up in RCM. So the first is a topic called commissioning for reliability. And this feature is actually a dynamic form that was built specifically for RCM users. And it's all about automating and standardizing commissioning. So if you think about a piece of equipment that has been restarted, or you've got a new piece of equipment coming in, you've got that check. And that check, you can then go out to the field with your intrinsically safe device, and you can say, I've done the commissioning, I've done the connection, I've done the pre-startup checks, and I go through it and confirm it. So you're confirming in the field, you're signing in the field, you're doing it first time right. I think it's a great feature, and we'll give that for standard for people that come into RCM. And the next one is something called causal learning. So don't confuse this exactly with root cause analysis. We have a domain expert called Harry, who a lot of you have met, and he's a big follower of a guy called Greg Stockholm, who came up with this concept of, rather than looking at a blame culture for root cause analysis, you actually look at the reasons behind it and you try and build corrective actions. So this checklist, also available on the mobile device, is intended to help you with incident, for example, investigation. And the next one is again with me, and that's tables in dynamic forms. So dynamic forms is something that we've had since last year. The reason for dynamic forms is, although you want to have a standard procedure across your organization for dealing with certain types of equipment, there's always subtleties and nuances. Or you'll have an idea that we never thought about and you want to build it for yourself. And one of the issues that we had is that our customers are saying, you don't have tables. You can do a checklist, you can add a bit of data, but you don't have tables. So we went all out and built 4 different things. And I'll quickly explain what they are, and then I'll do a demo so that they look, so you know what they look like in the product, and I'll also show how you can edit them and how simple it is to build. So the first one is columns per location, and if you think about this, you can define a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 column form, a generic form that you can apply across IMS. And then when you apply it to a piece of equipment or equipment group part or a CML or pipes, it will dynamically build a form with all of the elements that you've selected and all of the child elements, and then you can go and fill out those forms. The second one is columns per entry. Now, this is the really, really simple form. Don't worry, I am going to show it to you in a minute. What this says is, right, those 3 or 4 rows, I don't know necessarily what I'm going to do in the field, or I want to make it very generic, and I can simply add a new row. All of the values, drop downs, and the values that you can enter are the same, but it's just a nice way of saying I've got 1, 2, or 10 things that I need to do in the field. The third one is tables with leading columns. So this has fixed rows, fixed columns. So this is really about, for example, you've got a governance requirement and you have to fill out a specific form, and it has to have a specific format. And the last one is with specific cells. Now this says, actually, every element in the form is configurable. So although row 1 is first measurement and row 2 is a second measurement, I can say this is a numeric and this is a text value. So for example, if I do a pre-startup check on a piece of equipment that has electrical and piping information required, I can make sure I deal with it all in the same form. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take over. I'm going to share, hopefully I'm going to share my window. Great. So here I am back into IMS, and you can see that I have my form that I've built here with 4 specific grids. So in the first grid, I have the example of the columns per location. So if I click on that, I can see here that I've designed it with, for example, in the first section, a columns per location and based on equipment CML. The second one, I've done exactly the same thing, but I've said, please do it per group parts. And the third one, I've said, actually, do you know what? I want that to be piping. Now, if I go to IMS and I go to a particular function location and I assign that dynamic form to the equipment, you'll see that what it's done is it's dynamically picked up all of, for example, here, the CMLs, and later on in the second section, all of the parts, and in the third section, all the pipes in the piping system. So you wouldn't have to go in and build that form and add all those 100 elements yourself. You can simply say, attach it to the function location, and it dynamically picks up that information for you. The second one I wanted to talk about was the columns per entry. And if I look at the design of that one, you can see here that I've said columns per entry. And each of the fields are configurable. So I can say, okay, second one is corrosion present, and I want to make it a text. After plumb here, I want to make it an option list. And my options are yes and yes, integrity or maintenance, etc., etc. I can also make it color coordinated, which is quite good. If I go back into the product and I look at the second case, here you can see here, that's that columns per entry. And I can simply add a new row and pass something, enter my value, and say, and fill out the form as I require. And like I said, this is so that we don't know how many we want to do. It's more of an unstructured document. Third one is columns per tables with leading columns. And what this one does is it allows you to have a fixed number of rows and columns. For example, here it's a 2 by 2, and you can also pivot it, so you can spin it the other way around. Go back into the form. Third case, here you can see here, for example, I've got 15 ohms and I've got 1, 2, 5, oops, pardon me. But I can only specify the two parts, so I know that it's a specific form for a defined location. The last one is tables with specific cells. I'll just quickly show you the design again. And in the section, I've said tables with specific cells. And in each of the cells here, I can actually state that I want a different configuration. So for example, here I have a numeric. Here I have an options list with pass or fail. And for the second field, I have an options list with extruded, seamless, welded, and not available. So now if I go into what the form looks like, here I can, for example, say, okay, I've got 15 amperes and I've got 150 volt measurement. I can say that it's a pass. I can say that it's seamless. So actually, I can build a completely dynamic form with as many columns or fields as I want. Eshel, back to you, I think.
Thank you, Justin. That was quite insightful, really nice feature, and we hope that it helps all our users. So I'm going to continue sharing here.
Yeah, so I think it's a really powerful feature, and I think it's kind of a super user feature. So I blasted through the demo a little bit, but hopefully you get a feeling that there's lots of different configurations you can do. And I think the 4 different scenarios that I gave you probably make you think, now I know where to use it. I just wanted to quickly go over a couple of other improvements as well. So one of the requests that we got from customers was to say it's a little bit difficult to select dates in a form, and I had to agree. So whenever people come with usability changes that really help people, we're quite happy to put those in. So we made the dates now a drop-down picker, make it a lot easier. The third item here I want to quickly call out is also the versioning. The versioning really confused people. They couldn't work out which version of the form they were using. We made it a super simple numeric. And on the bottom right, just one more to call out. That is that for very, very long lists, it was proving extremely difficult to actually find the value that you want, especially with piping and pipe system, pipelines, pipe track. So we've made it a type ahead search so that you can really quickly find that. Right. Just quickly onto IMS for field, which is, like I say, our mobile app. A lot of users were asking, why can't I have a specific ECH or a specific record that I just want to push to my device? So we made the URLs really quite simple to use now. So for example, ECH and the number. That means you can even share it with people, by the way, but you can download that to your device and you could just work on that form. So that's a nice, simple productivity change. One thing that we're also really, really pushing hard is single sign-on. So OpenID Connect, we're now supporting Ping, Google, and Azure. And we know that a lot of our customers have those single sign-on requirements. And the last but not least, before I hand it back to Eshel, is that we had an issue with multiple people working on the same ECH, same condition history. So what we've done is we've made a toggle feature to say, always work online. And that means multiple people can work on the same history and they have to sync it back. It won't go offline. It won't allow you to override each other's changes. You go back when you've finished your work and you resync, and that means you can both work on the same ECH. I think that's back to you, Eshel.
Thank you, Justin. And to wrap up and starting the closing of this webinar, we are going to talk about other CC improvements that we have also announced in our release 2 of 2024. First, we have new releases in the local level and at the equipment level. One really cool thing that we just introduced is the ability for our users to copy and paste LOPA. The idea behind this is that our users in IMSs are able to save precious time by just taking the LOPA, copy it, and generating a copy in order to work on that. Since we are generating a copy to start working and modifying, the idea behind this is to copy only the essential elements that are part of the LOPA. So whenever we are using these new features that we are having here in IMSs, the idea behind this is that from the original LOPA, we are copying the initiating events, the barriers, and the conditionals modifier. What we call is the heart or the core of our LOPAs. Other elements that are part of this specific LOPA that we are taking as starting point, which are, for example, the links to different HACCPs and CIFs and node revisions, recommendations, those are not copies since are from that specific LOPA. But the idea behind this is that the user, whenever is generating a new LOPA from an existing one, doesn't have to spend time copying and retyping all the initiating events, the barriers, and the conditional modifiers. Another thing that we introduce in order to have a safer process in place, because safety, of course, is paramount for us, is to disable the unlinking from master equipment for most of the users in IMSs. When we create an equipment that is based on the master equipment, the main thing that we are taking from the master equipment, for example, is the failure rate data. And the idea behind this is that we don't grant access to unlink this equipment from the master equipment to any user. The only one that can do so is the admin, and this will help us to have a safer process in place. And apart from the LOPA and the equipment improvements that we've just introduced, we also have some improvement in the CIF analysis level. One of the things that we worked in and we are happy now to have in place is that when in a CIF analysis, there's a subsystem, and then we change the name or the type of this subsystem, this change will apply also to other CIFs analysis where the subsystem is used. So this is also to gain consistency and safetyness in our processes. whenever we have a subsystem in two different CIFs analysis, then if, for example, we have a final approved CIF and someone changes the type or the name of the subsystem, this CIF will go back to draft. The idea behind this is that if there's any change, of course, we need to review this analysis again and to make sure that everything is in the risk levels that we are aiming for. And last but not least, in order to also save time for our user, whenever we have a CIF analysis with NN design status, or let's say with a safety level that could be considered low or negligible, then we won't need subsystem in order to final approve this CIF analysis. So now I think it's time for some Q&A. Right?
Okay, maybe stop sharing and we'll
okay. There. All right.
Okay, we do have some questions. Here's one for you. The last one. In CIF Pro, CIFs can be copied. This new copy feature is only copying the LOPA diagram. Question mark. It's not just the diagram, it's also copying all the underlying data.
Exactly. The idea behind copy this is that we can copy the whole LOPA, as we mentioned before, the CIF, the barriers, the conditional modifiers, and all the core elements of this. And then, of course, when we are creating a CIF from that LOPA that we just generated from a copy, the LOPA diagram will be downloaded, will be showed in the CIF analysis as well.
Okay, that's clear. The next question was, instead of grid 1, 2, 3, 4 abbreviation of columns per location will be more easily recognizable. Okay, so what's actually happened then is I've misused the dynamic form to show the four types of form that we have. Actually, those are steps in the dynamic form, so that's the confusion. When you go to the step, you will actually have the function location or equipment there. But the question is, so it's the same as in CIF Pro version 4? Yes, exactly. So what we're trying to do is get the that's back to the CIF LOPA question. We're trying to mimic as many features as we can between CIF Pro and CIS. I've got one more question. Why not limiting to an equipment group? Yes, so this is about location equipment. We actually started with premise of plant site location unit, because that physical limitation is what our customers were asking for in terms of the Chinese wall and making sure that you couldn't see one side or the other. But equipment groups is a fair request, but I think you can do that in roles anyway, can't you?
Yeah, you can.
Okay. Now, any other questions? We have one. How easy is it to configure dynamic forms? Okay, so I think the first time that I did it, I must admit, it is a bit complicated. I think it is a super user feature, and definitely we don't want to be giving dynamic form creation to everybody. Otherwise, you'll end up with lots of dynamic forms, and you won't know which one to use. So I really think that the super users and the focal points for IMS should be determining how many forms there are, and we can offer a training on that. I even believe there is a dynamic form course in the academy.
Yeah, there is.
So if you want to learn it, by all means, sign up to the academy.
And remember that for every feature we release, for every release we have, you have always information in the handbook. Very useful tool. You have all at the hand, so you can go there and look for more information if required as well.
Great. Well, I think that wraps it up for today. I'd like to thank Eshel, product manager on CIS and RCM, for joining me today. Marco will be back for the next one. Don't worry, people. I'd also like to remind you that all of the events and webinars that we have are on cenosco.com. We publish everything that we're going to do. Please sign up to our other things. We're also on LinkedIn if you want to find out what we're up to. And on that bombshell, I think it's thank you and goodbye.
Thank you.